All right, and welcome and thank you everyone for joining us for another Twitter Space. Today is August 18th, 2022, and this is episode 28 of the ledgerscale Internet of Value Open Forum. Now, ledgerscale Foundation was founded with two goals in mind. One, we want to provide educational services to not only our community, but to the entire digital asset community, and to help scale up the number of brains that understand how distributed ledger technology works. And two, we intend to one day run hardware to provide infrastructural support to the distributed ledger technology networks that we believe are ESG friendly and running a form of decentralized consensus. We host these spaces on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday starting at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And on we host a focus topic space from 5 to 6 Eastern Standard Time. And if I could just ask if everybody could follow us on Twitter at ledgerscale. Turn those notifications on so you know when we're going live. And at the bottom right, there's a little bubble there. If you could hit it and just give us a like and a retweet so that hopefully other people find this information valuable in the future.
Yeah, and we've actually gotten a few subscribers in the last few days, so appreciate that. Because the point here is to engage the community. So if anybody has any questions, it's an open forum today. So please just raise your hand. I'm sure if you're curious about something, somebody else is going to be, if not multiple people, are going to be wondering the same thing. And if you do speak up, just be cordial and welcome to the space. And do appreciate the folks that subscribed recently.
Just inviting some people up. We have some cool Ripple news at least today. Tony, you seemed pretty excited from the new Ripple news. You want to go over it?
I was just excited. I was like, man, when is it my turn to talk?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pin it up on top. So they partnered with TravelX. So it's a bank partnered, and it's the first bank approved by the Central Bank of Brazil to operate in the FX. And yeah, so Brad was the one that mentioned that. I think he's the one that broke the news. I'll pin it up on top right now.
Did you see that smile that he had?
It's a good day today, right?
Good day, yeah, for them. Yeah. Well, Brazil is a huge corridor, right, for remittance payments, and they're going to be using EL and directly, right, using XRP now, and so this is it's a nice announcement for more usage on the ledger for what it was designed for.
Well, don't forget, Warren Buffett actually put some money into a Brazilian bank that's like basically a money center bank for their economy.
New Bank, yes.
Yeah, that wasn't too long ago.
Yeah, they're direct. I think they're a direct partner of Ripple already. Or no, they're a direct partner of a partner of Ripple's. That's right, name.
Yeah, and Brazil does a bunch of business with China, and Europe, and I mean it's a much bigger economy than you'd think.
Did you catch that in Interledger chat last night?
Yeah, there wasn't too much to talk about. I think I'm going to apply for their grant program, and I might go over there and go to that thing. There's a couple of people who've actually been on these chats that are going to go, that I've kind of helped try and make some connections together and whatnot. And I'd like to meet them in person. So I think I might. I was thinking about driving over there. And I said that to my girl, and she's like, "What are you talking? Just fly. Like, what do you drive over there?" And I guess, with Uber and stuff nowadays, it's a little easier. You don't end up having to rent a car on the other side. But I've never been to New Orleans, so that would be cool. I always kind of wanted to go there. But that's basically just about the conference. It wasn't really about Interledger protocol itself.
So the bank you were talking about, New Bank, Warren Buffett invested $500 million into that digital bank.
Yeah, that's not a small sum of money, even for Warren Buffett, man. That's a chunk of change right there.
Yeah, I feel like he never does anything small. It was like he always
No,
goes.
he can't. He can't. The problem is, let's say you're an investor. When you're small, you got a ton of a ton of options in terms of investments, right? Because 100,000 here, 100,000 there, like there's a gazillion things you can put 100,000 into and make great returns. But once you're playing with billions, like you can't you don't have enough time in the day to, I mean, how many $100,000 deals can you do if you're investing a couple of billion? I mean, you'd never, you wouldn't even have time to really analyze the deal.
Oh boy, I just got some news too. If you guys want, the SEC just put a cease and desist order against Tether and Bitfinex parent company Ifinex. SEC says Tether was artificially manipulating the prices of Bitcoin and other emerging asset classes.
Really? Oh my goodness, that's going to cause a shitstorm.
Yeah, Arrow just put it up on top.
Oh, what timing? Yeah, I see it going around, right? Oh man, there we go. Crypto whale for the official news, right? Interesting.
That's not good, man.
No, this is it right here. This is kind of that black swan, right? What are they going to do now? They now have an actual cease and desist proceedings.
But
Yeah, pretty sure. Like, I'm not a lawyer. I don't see. I know there's a few lawyers that come in here, but I'm pretty sure you get a cease and desist letter, you have to like halt operations. Like, you got to shut down business. I'm pretty sure.
You
I
know,
don't think.
you know what's interesting here? From March 4th, 2017 to present, Tether, a Hong Kong-based stablecoin company who holds subsidiary of Ifinex Inc. So they're from China?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, look at this. Wow.
Well, I mean, Hong Kong is.
That's right. I totally
Hong Kong
forgot.
still the gray zone, or did China take over Hong Kong? I know there was a bunch of protests and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, they put tanks in front of the banks.
I don't know if you meant to, but that rhymed. Hey, Lucy.
No, I didn't, but it just so happened.
so it happened in small provinces, like with very small banks in China, but so far nothing in Hong Kong. No bank runs yet in Hong Kong.
Wasn't Hong Kong, or no? The English gave Hong Kong back to China several years ago, right? So it is.
But it operated mostly independently. But then the Chinese slowly, over the past 5 years or so, have gotten more control over it, which has I wouldn't say crippled, but it definitely has affected business.
Hey, not to, just to. Where did you hear that information for the SEC and Tether putting a halt, a cease and desist?
Well, it's on Twitter, but this is a official document.
It is. I would love to read that document because I don't know. Sometimes a lot of people have been spreading a lot of FUD lately that is like not real, but it gets our hopes up, thinking, "Oh my God, this is it. It's ready."
It's right above if you scroll to the top.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't. I just got off of work and I just saw that you were on, so I just jumped on. I'll look in a little bit, but that's crazy. Oh my God, it's gonna be a bloodbath.
Well, the trouble is,
So guys, I don't know what's going on, but I just got a message from someone, and they're saying that this thing that's going on, floating around, is fake. But I'm gonna verify it right now. Just give me a few seconds.
Thanks, because I mean, it doesn't. News like that would have already have dropped the market, like boom. I mean, just now I'm thinking, oh my God, it's gonna cause a storm. Like that's just too crazy.
well, the trouble is, if Tether is enabling the creation of leverage, then then that, if you have to if you have to unwind that, that's where market dynamics would like '08 was a deleveraging.
Mm-hmm. I saw an article with Tether, and they were saying that they have been trying to be audited, but that no big company wanted to actually take that job up. That they tried several different companies to audit them, and that they never would accept their audit. So that is one of the reasons why they claimed they had not been audited. I don't know. Did you guys, anyone see?
You can also just be transparent.
No, the audit company asked for information. They were like, "We're not giving that to you," and they were like, "Okay, well, we can't audit you."
Oh, well, the interview I saw obviously was on, like, made it sugarcoat, made them sound like they were angels. So it was probably propaganda for their end.
Well, I
It's
mean,
it's fake. It's fake. Um, if I'll pin up a post right now.
It is fake?
There's nothing on the SEC website that shows that document, so it looks like
Yeah,
it's fake.
they might have
Okay.
just not posted it. Today's the 18th. I wonder where the full document though, because it's only a screenshot of it, right? So there would be a whole thing, but it just says latest news, right? It's August 17th. Today's the 18th. They could have just, if it is sent. I don't know if they would have put it on their website. I'm on it right now though.
Yeah, it's so far it's not on their website. I mean, if that were to happen though, we would have seen it, affect the market. Like
Exactly.
yeah, like Lucy's saying, we would have already seen it affect the market.
Yeah, I mean, the insider trading is ridiculous. That would have already have been affecting it probably a few hours before the news would have come out.
Well, it says, let's see, release number. I'm gonna look it up right now because there's a file number on it, so we can look it up. But see, if it is filed technically today, right, August 18th. Right, I got to give it a couple of hours, maybe a day.
Yeah, but the insider traders, they have that information before it even comes out. So they would be slowly, like
I think
dropping the market hard.
I think that's just an assumption that if people knew, they haven't already taken profit.
Mm.
Yeah, it's fake.
Although I don't know how you wouldn't know because I'm just waiting for it to happen.
Does
man,
anybody miss?
what
Oh, sorry.
people coming into this crypto space like new. I mean, it it was simple back in the day. Now it's like, dude, there's some. I mean, you got people putting out fake stuff, and I guess that's been going on for years. But still,
No, the fake stuff has been worse this year. Like way worse than I've ever seen it. Like people are
Do
literally
you think? I think it's the exact same as it's always been.
really. Maybe I never paid attention until this year.
You just downloaded Twitter recently.
That you're right. You know me, Death Ranger. I just
It's
started
the
active.
it's the marketing and the algorithms, right? It tweaks it to so you see all of this going on.
Yeah. Yeah, like that channel that I told you. I mean, the guy was literally giving fake information out, telling people to sell out of XRP, to take profit. Because, and like, I forgot how much he was, that they were saying. I mean, I forgot at the moment, but it was just, I mean, half of the stuff they were saying didn't make sense. They were saying that the New World Order was going to take over people's accounts, and that they were going to lose it anyways. So why not just cash out? And I'm like, none of that sounds real because I've listened to David Schwartz. David Schwartz specifically said that XRP is not going to be able to be manipulated and you can't stop it because it's a bridge. It's a trustless bridge, correct? So how can you, if someone can have access to stop the XRP from flowing, then that would mean that Russia wouldn't be able to trust Bangladesh, and Bangladesh wouldn't be able to trust India in an exchange because if somebody has control over it, they would just stop it from flowing. So from what David Schwartz said was that no one would be able to stop XRP. Now, a CBDC, on the other hand, can be controlled by the banks and be controlled by your address, as from far as what I understood, that they will be able to, lock you out of your address because the CBDC is more controllable.
Well, depends on how the CBDC system is designed. But yeah, there's been people spreading fake information about XRP for years. And then when they can't, when somebody like that has knowledge corrects them, then they go to like personal attacks.
No, they blocked me. They blocked me. They didn't allow me to continue.
Thread or whatever, format.
I this, they just stopped me from being able to talk. And Death Ranger was like, "Oh, they guess they couldn't handle anything from a girl."
Yeah, it's that's just how it's. I don't know why it's just been that way for. Whenever it started, it's never stopped.
Yeah.
Like if you go saying something that's here's how this. I mean, it's just here's how this works. A square has four corners, right? Like,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're arguing a square has no corners, and it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of where I was at, and it was my second chat, and Death Ranger was like, "What are you doing in there?" I was like, "Well, I didn't know. I thought maybe I was gonna find him in there." I'm very very new to the whole Twitter sphere, so and I like to contribute. I like to chat. I'm a chick.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Thank you for coming up too. Yes, thank you, because it's nice to have a female voice.
Thank you.
But man, Twitter is a cesspool. Holy bejesus. You got to figure out who the right people are to follow, because if you just, oh my goodness.
Oh, I started.
Well, if you look at the thing that's dangerous with this is he's a really big account, and a lot of people listen to him, and it's dangerous when stuff like this is not verified and triple, quadruple checked before posting, because a lot of people panic sell thinking that this is it.
Well, I think we should wait and see for a couple hours because, like I said, I don't know who took the picture of this document, right? Because if it was issued to you, it might not be uploaded on their website yet. So I mean, just I don't want to say it's completely fake, but let's.
And if it is fake, it's really well worded.
It's really well worded, yeah. And on top of that, I've kind of been waiting for this like exact thing to happen. So I mean, it's inevitably, I feel like, unfortunately, going to happen. Go ahead, Kosh, gentlemen.
Yeah, I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that's why it is very risky to be trading off the news. Like, I don't care kind of what the news is for 99% of the time. Like, have a plan and stick to your plan and don't sentiment trade based off of news. So I just want to dip in and say that right quick.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that something like that is kind of, even if that particular thing is fake, like something along those lines is in all likelihood it's a higher than a 50% probability. Just a matter of like when. Because there, I mean, I've even heard who was it? Well, I don't remember. It was some official lady. And she said I forget if it was a regulator or like a congresswoman, but she said she basically called Tether like an open secret.
Am I lagging?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, Jay?
Hey, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on Matic bashing XRP today, and Deedon kind of going in on him.
You said Matic, like the blockchain?
No, fucking.
Vitalik Buterin.
Yeah, Metallic.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes,
Vitalik.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Well, wait. Him and John Deaton got into an argument. You're saying on Twitter?
Well, no, it wasn't so much that, 'cause I don't think the dude from Ethereum was like barking.
Yeah,
at
and David Schwartz too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw what David said. That was hilarious. I thought. I think he
Yeah.
splashed his you know, in all reality, I mean, I don't know what Vitalik's all mad about, right? He took an idea, he ran with it, and made billions of dollars, and you know, it's living his life. I mean, I don't know why you're so mad.
I think that's all a show, to be honest with you, in my opinion. But what do you guys think?
I think the way David phrased what he phrased was very carefully crafted. I mean, it sounded
Yeah.
casual, but it was like
I totally
basically
agree with you.
framed up securities as security. And it framed up the miners as shareholders. And I mean, I'd never heard anybody sort of frame it up quite like that, but it sort of made sense.
So I just pinned something up on top. So it's the SEC thing. It is fake. It's confirmed. It says fake to the SEC. Cease and desist. Making the rounds on Twitter. It is an edited copy of the BlockFi release, and then it's pretty much the same thing. So they just copy pasted.
Man, it is so crazy that people go out of there because somebody spent time doing that. And I just, why? You know, I mean, it's like the trolls, you know, why? What's the, I mean, you could do so many other things with your time. Why would that be your priority? I don't get it. I mean, to just mislead people intentionally, what's the purpose of that? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, they definitely have different file numbers too. I mean, I don't know.
Hey
well,
guys,
Did a good job.
how's everyone doing?
Hey, Flare community.
What's going on, Anonymous?
Not much, not much. Just had a bit of a heart attack today. So whatever you guys do, do not check XRP scan for your Flare tokens anymore.
Yeah, I don't think they've been on that for a while, actually.
Well, for the uninitiated, don't look on there because it doesn't matter. They've been taken from there. So that doesn't mean you're not eligible, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're fine. 100%. If you're claiming your reward and you've done it self custody, it will still be going to the same wallet you've used. Yes.
Yeah. But it's on Flare Explorer now, so you need to check on there with your address.
I think it's still on XRP scan, but it's just in a different spot, so you have to kind of look for it. It's not in the same spot it was. I think that's what it was.
I don't think so, unless that's just me. If anyone can vouch with anything different, mine says non-eligible now.
Oh, maybe that's just a glitch or something. I don't know. That's interesting though.
it's April Fool's.
I hope not. I hope not, guys. I had a heart attack today, a mini heart attack.
Well, I'll tell you what, I had a bit of a bad day because after the snapshot, I had an account with a reasonable amount of XRP that I don't know how I screwed it up. And I mean, I did verifiably screw it up, but one of the accounts didn't get set up right with the message key. And yeah, I'm not getting that. So
Yeah, no. So anyway, it ended up a learning process. Worst comes to worst, I won't get them. But if you check on Explorer, and I think is it for how many? What's the contract where it's the initial airdrop, the total amount that's being airdropped to people? Something like, is it 4 billion? What's the total amount? Well, it's that contract.
hey, Death, actually, do you mind giving an overview on what the status is of the airdrop and everything? Because I know there's several kind of sequence of events that are coming, because there's going to be some drop and then a vote and some other parts of the situation.
Yeah, yeah. For the flare drop, it's still going to be the initial 15%, right? And so they're going to wait for 75% of the initial 15% to be dropped, to be available to people to start what they're calling it's an amendment or a vote to change the way that the distribution will occur. Because if you remember, you were going to receive the first 15%, and then over the course of the next 32 months or so, you'd get about 2 to 3% every month of whatever you were allocated. And so it would last for like 2 to 3 years. The problem with that, though, is that if people used exchanges and the exchange goes down, which we've seen happen way too many times now, um, everybody's kind of going to be screwed out of their tokens, unfortunately. So the amendment is going to change the way that the distribution occurs. Um, though the initial 15% will still be the exact same. And you could actually, if you participate in the ecosystem as in just really wrapping your tokens and delegating, you could actually end up getting way more than the initial 100%, or it was like, I guess, 1 to 1.0073 or something for every token you held of XRP. And so it might work out for people who participate now. But I saw Rippleton. Thank you. So you unmute before if you wanted to say something.
I didn't think about that, but that's a really good point. That if, let's say I'm using an exchange and it's going to take 2 years, and in that 2 year period, at some point the exchange goes under, then I had not thought about that risk.
Yeah, the whole reason for the vote is to basically get rid of the exchanges out of this whole equation, so that you don't have to worry about it. Because who knows? I mean, maybe not today, but 3 years from now. I mean, I don't know. It's too. Yeah, I agree with them.
And the other thing is, from a tax point of view, there was some people saying that if you got a little bit each month, it could turn into an ordinary income instead of a capital gain. And capital gains tax rate is only 15%. Your ordinary income tax rate can be double that.
Yeah, I mean, you'd still end up getting some, so you would still get an allocation over the course of the 32 months, but instead of it being sent out to the exchanges through the exchanges, it would just be basically pooled together. So all of the 85% left of all of the tokens that were going to be handed out would be pooled together, and those that don't wrap their token and participate, well, if you wrap your token, you might as well delegate it, right? Because you're using a service that has that capability. You don't get the rest of the allocation, and so all of the exchange like that
So,
won't get it.
so it's not it's not a vote to say like, hey, just go ahead. Okay, so they're just going to give it as additional
Yeah, like
delegation rewards.
if you're an exchange and you don't wrap your tokens, so you're not going to get any reward. So that 85% of leftover of the from what you got initially, right? You got the 15%. What's left over is not given to them, and so that just goes into the pool that will be handed out to the people who participate.
Just wondering, guys, does anyone want me to provide the demonstration of how to check your amount on the Flare Explorer? because it's the total airdrop contract address that you need to put in, and it's like on the code. It's you change it to read only. You put your Ethereum address in, and then it shows you up what your amount, your 15% is due. So that's the only way I can find my Spark Flare amount now. Because I'm just guessing a few people might come into the same situation I was in today and think that it's not eligible, but that just means it's simply been taken because it's gone from observation mode, so it is actually ready to be distributed on the Flare Explorer, the Flare networks.
Yeah, it's very possible. Very possible. Because the network is live, right? It is not in observation mode anymore, and we're 4 weeks into that. Minimum 8 weeks before they would say token distribution time. So, maybe hopefully we're just a month away.
I don't know why. I guess I'm just a nerd, but I think this stuff's kind of exciting. I mean, this isn't easy to do. Like launching a telescope is not easy to do. Like, there's so many moving parts and everything and things to be thought through. And I mean, how many years have been put into Flare? And now it's only a couple weeks away from ramping up. Well, it's in the process of ramping up.
That's why there's a bit of free airtime. Just a quick follow-up to yesterday's discussion about the UNLs and those who aren't on the UNL. I put up a post last night outlining those who aren't on the UNL and their votes relative to XLS20 and what have you. Well worth having a look at and just seeing the apathy that current validators across the whole network, including those on the UNL, have towards updating and voting.
Hey, I have a subject I'd like to ask a question whenever you guys are ready for another subject.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Rippleton. It was a little
I,
low.
I have a question when you're ready for another subject about dexes. Like Oracle Swap Dex just launched, and now we have Pangolin Dex. I mean, how many dexes do we really need? I'm just curious. Are dexes going to be like the thing? How many dexes can possibly survive?
I
Well,
mean,
quick answer to that is you need a DEX for each protocol. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So every single crypto will have its own dex?
Every protocol should have its own DEX. So if a protocol, like, the Ethereum network, for example, all the ERC20 tokens, they don't need each individually need their own DEX, but they would have one DEX that they could use. It's like all the XRPL tokens, they only need one DEX, and there is only one DEX, which is on the XRP ledger.
I think so. And I think you meant like the Flare, right? The Dex.
Yeah, the Flare and the Songbird. Like,
yeah. So I mean,
my-
as many dexes as people really want to build on the protocol, right? Because it's a smart contract that people are writing, and so anybody who knows how to do it can do it, and that's just really the reality behind the, like, can people do it? Yes. Will there be liquidity there? Well, that's a question. If it's used, then there will be liquidity there for the dex for whatever.
So it depends on the popularity of each dex, whether it will survive or not.
Yeah, and the business models and whatever they have going on behind. Sure, I'm sure. But yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me? Testing 1 2.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just to further elaborate on her question. So the Oracle swap was just for like the Songbird assets, I believe it was. And so the Pang Dex is going to cover, from my understanding, like all of the bridged assets, right? So they're really different products at the end of the day. The Pang Dex is trying to cover a wider group of assets.
No, they have Oracle decks plan to do the same thing. Those guys. Will they be able to? I don't know. It's not as many guys. It's really just two devs, I think. Or the Pangolins have teams. But the funny thing is it's the same code base. It's both Uniswap V2 code base. They've just kind of tweaked the UI and done their own little twist on it.
Yeah, but none of that compares to what David has proposed, because for the XRP, with the one where you can participate on only one side of the AMM, there's nobody else out there that's even proposed that.
Stellar already has an automated market maker on their platform.
But
Are you
do you
talking
have
Ledger?
to do you have to put value on both sides of the market?
No, I believe it's a one-sided pool. That's why they added that Aqua token. It's kind of like their LP token.
I didn't know. I'll make a call about that,
The
because
Aqua
that's
is
the
on
first
the
I've
block.
heard.
And is everybody breaking up tonight, or is it just me?
No, it's pretty bad, man.
It's
I
pretty
was
bad.
just wondering that.
I don't know. Mine's okay.
And I hear you fine.
I got a pretty big
Karma
storm.
broken up for me. He's like Karma's in and out.
Well, I got a big thunderstorm rolling in. Like,
that makes sense.
it's blowing, and my power just went out a little bit ago, like 20 minutes, a little bit after we started the call. The whole house went out of power.
I just thought, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, you're much better.
Okay, that's cool. It was just a follow-up to yesterday's discussion around the UNL. I put up a post last night, just outlining the total votes in the UNL and the empathy around every validator at updating and voting across the whole thing. So if you want to have a look on Twitter, you'll see it.
Did you post it up top, or was it on your page?
No, on my page. But in a nutshell, we talked about the UNL and how people get on the UNL and what have you, and who should be on the UNL. But out of the 100 validators that are not part of the UNL currently, there's only 12 that voted, actively voted to enable XLS20. And, yeah, so only 12% have voted to do that. Now, people say, well, why bother voting? It doesn't matter. Well, as a UNL validator, I'd be keen to look at everybody else's sentiment. And if you've got the ability to vote, then vote. Doesn't matter whether it counts or not. Those who are voting and do count, we can use that as another measure as to market sentiment or community sentiment towards an amendment.
That's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with your sentiment there, though, because I don't know, it reminds me of something my grandfather said, because I didn't want to vote one year, and he gave me a stern talking to, and he said, look, people, like, he had friends, that died for your right. He's like, even if you don't like the options, you got to vote. And so I always vote, whether I don't like politics, but I still freaking go do the thing. It's interesting, but do you know if somebody puts you on their UNL? Like, can you tell if let's say, like, I spin up a validator, is there, in I would assume initially I'm on nobody's UNL, right? Because why would I be? But how do you know if you show up on other people's UNL? You have to go look at their UNL, or your system's not going to tell you, I assume.
No, so you've got no idea ultimately who has you as your validator on their UNL, because it's the same with me. It's not controlled by me, it's controlled by everybody else. So everybody else has me on their UNL. That's why I'm part of the UNL group. But I've got no control over that. So I could ask people to remove me if I wanted to be off it. But at the end of the day, it's the way the protocol works. And yeah,
Oh, I never thought about that. What would you
what's
do in a situation where, let's say, you have me on your UNL and I don't want to be on your UNL? I really can't do anything about that, can I?
no, you can't, and you could ask somebody, but all it comes down to is, why would you not want to be on somebody's UNL? Because at the end of the day, all you're doing is trusting your consensus mechanism that's occurring on your validator, and that's it. It's not concerned with anything else. It's not concerned with who else is on your UNL. It's just on their UNL. Sorry, it's just you and them, and for validators you trust. And yeah, it's sort of a backward way of doing things as to what we're normally used to. But yeah, you've got no control over it, and it's peculiar. And that's why I say it's important to vote, because at any given point in time, you could become part of the UNL without even knowing it.
Quick question.
Yeah, Jay, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to understand what the UNL is. Is that just United Ledger or something like that?
UNL is so each validator on the XRP Ledger network discusses consensus with all the validators on its trusted node list, which is a UNL or a unique node list. And what happens then is that's how consensus is reached. And when you get the overlap between all the different validators and the numbers on it, you then work out a group who reach consensus, a super majority. Currently, there's 35 validators.
So is that kind of like an oracle, or?
Hey, Rippleton, I remember reading, and I personally could not re-articulate this, but I remember reading David Schwartz had made a analogy to the way the XRP ledger works, and the like a crowd trying to get out the door all at once, but they can only go one. I think his point was the sequencing of transactions solving the Byzantine general problem. But do you know that, Annette? Do you know what I'm talking about? Could you explain that, or?
Not really. I would have to look and listen to it. But yeah, consensus is a really difficult thing to get your head around. And, it's a union of trust. So consensus doesn't consider every validator, but every validator is involved in consensus by virtue of who it trusts to listen to. So like I've got a list of 35 validators that 34 other validators that I listen to. So my validator in reaching consensus only listens to those 34 validators, doesn't listen to the whole network, just listens to those 34. And so, you've got all these little groups who are sitting there and reaching agreement as to what to include in the next ledger. And then what happens is each of those validators who form the supergroup come together in the final analysis and agree out of all those mini groups which actual ledgers, which actual validations are included in the next ledger. And it submits them and closes it, and it goes on, and this just goes on into perpetuity. And yeah, it's a really difficult one to get your head around. And yeah, I've struggled for years to get my head around it properly. And you listen to each individual person's interpretation, and it's always slightly different. And mine's going to be no different than the next person's, and what have you. But yeah, the big thing to remember is that the UNL is what your validator is using to determine what validators it listens to in order to reach consensus.
The topology type of thinking is what helped me kind of. I feel like I've got my head more or less wrapped around it. I'm sure there's things I don't fully understand though.
Yeah, so if you take take a chocolate cake recipe, for example, you know, there's hundreds of chocolate cake recipes out there. But if everyone's using the same chocolate cake recipe, then that recipe is deemed to be the most popular, and then it's the go-to for everybody. So yeah, and that's very loosely putting at it, but you know, but you could make that chocolate cake with other recipes as well, and it would taste the same, look the same, feel the same, but the ingredients are slightly different. It's the same with the UNL. You know, a UNL list is something that every validator has. It's the only way that the validator can perform as a validator is to have a UNL list. How it derives that list is entirely up to you. You can make it yourself, or you can use a published list. So a published list is just like a cookbook, for example. You know, it's a record of somebody's put together a recipe. As you're free to use it, or you can use your own recipe. It's entirely up to you. And then from there, you know, what happens is it does a quick analysis of what recipes everybody's using, and it decides that, okay, this recipe book happens to be the one that everyone's using, and these are the ingredients, and this is the one that we're going to use as a default ingredient list for whenever we discuss chocolate cake. So yeah, it's just, you know, what we really need to better understand it, I think, from my perspective, is for somebody to come out and publish an alternative list that people can then say, well, okay, we'll look at an alternative list to trust other than the ones that are on it. Because the three lists that are currently out there,
I would think the ideal would be to have sort of a, I don't know, a lattice or a, you know, you want multiple, like you want, like if I'm running a validator, there should be some people on my list that are not on your list, and vice versa. And you kind of have a
yeah,
spread
that's
sort
exactly
of
it.
spread.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, it goes back to the old designs in school. You know, where we had the old the charts overlapping each other, and you know, and that's what we need. We need overlap, but we need diversity in those overlaps. So, providing there are sufficient in your UNL that are consistent with what I listen to in my UNL, then we can both have sufficiently different lists of validators to trust. But there's a common junction between the two, and it's that common junction that form the list of super validators who make the decision, because they are trusted by both groups, if you can understand that.
Yeah, dude, I'm sure there's math that they've done, and it's probably just math that's over my head. But there's got to be a way to measure, like, what would be the optimal. Like the reason you don't see
62%, I
longer
believe it
than
is.
30, mortgages is because the benefit to the bank is it's a point of diminishing return. So the banks just stop
Yeah.
at 30 years. Like there's got to be an optimal sort of overlap of the UNL for like network decentralization and but still having the network, perform well.
Yeah. So the situation is, like if you had 100 validators, for example, on the network, and you had 50% running one list and 50% running a completely different list with no overlap, then you've got a problem because you're both reaching consensus, right? But no one can. There can be no forward progress because we need a variance of something of at least 1% difference between the two
What if
to be able to
what
make
if there
forward
was
progress.
what if there was just like one overlap between the
Well,
two
currently,
lists?
currently that's what exists. You've only got one overlap because you've got a group of 35 who's been used on everybody's validator. And if everybody is using, when I say that loosely, there are a couple of validators out there who have their own lists. But for the most part, there is, uh, only one list that's in existence. That's what everyone's using. They choose to, it's their decision to use that list without changing it. And the difficulty is if you go to change it, how do you change it? And how do you determine what validators to trust if you don't know who those validators are? And for the largest majority of the validators on the network, we don't know who they are because there's no way of identifying them. They're not running TOML files, so we can't gather any information about them.
Well, like for me, like with karma coverage, if you were to build that out, I would
Yep.
probably it would be a side chain, right? But I would just use the XRP ledger because why reinvent the wheel? And each customer though would basically be like a distribution unit, and I would have them run their own node, and so I could put them on a UNL. They're going to know each other because everybody's in the industry. They all know each other. And
Yeah, but do you
so,
trust them? That's the thing. So even though you
well,
might know them,
these would be
do you trust them?
licensed. Yeah, I mean, these would be licensed individuals. Yes. Yeah. The way I have the distribution method thought up. Yeah, they would all be pre-licensed, almost like how Facebook you solved the identity problem. This is why they beat out MySpace because they used the college email because that proves true identity because you didn't get that college email without obviously the college knows who the student is. Same kind of concept, except for the risk markets. But yeah, I mean, these would be licensed individuals that, yeah. So you'd have there, and then they know each other, and so I'd imagine they can change the UNL, and you make some kind of user interface for that.
Well, yeah. So you know, you could ship a version of the XRP ledger that you've forked and ship it with your own UNL list that you regulate and add to and remove from when you feel fit, and tell the people that it's a condition of their using your version of the ledger that they only use your UNL, and that if they don't, then they'll be excluded. That's one way around it, but that doesn't happen on the XRP ledger. It's a completely permissionless system, and everyone gets to choose who's on the UNL. It's just that, unfortunately, and it's probably time to change, but unfortunately, everyone's using the same list, and and what happens then is that the same people are making the same decisions on behalf of everybody else all the time, and there's no one jumping in and jumping off. Although I dare say that in the next month or so, you'll find that some of the validators have been lagging on recent times on the UNL will be removed and will be replaced by others who currently are being due diligenced as to whether they're worthy to be on a trusted list that a publisher puts out.
So, quick question, Rippleton. I did want to thank you for coming in and giving us the update on the UNL because it's really important information. And I like how you're trying to encourage the other validators, even though they're not technically on the UNL, to also make their opinions known so that we can get a better idea of how different opinions exist among all of the validators. My question, though, is like, do you think that it would also be beneficial to not just record the other validators' votes, but is there a place or does there need to be a place for these other, 70, 80, some odd different validators can post not just that they're validators, but like what type of equipment they're running, some of their specs, some of the information that you as a validator would want to know before you added them to your UNL. So is there any plans to maybe have a place where they can all publish that kind of information to see like what they're doing and how their system is set up to see if I want to trust them?
Yeah, so that's up to each individual validator. Like I publish on my website what the specs of my server are, and I give all the details around my validator's performance on that website. Some others do as well, but the majority don't. The majority don't even have a domain linked up, hooked up, and there's no requirement to have that. But the act of being a good validator that people can trust is one is that they're transparent, that you know who they are, how they operate, what they operate with, how reliant they are in their operation, that their TOML file. So a TOML file is a domain extension that is in plain English. It describes some specific information about each validator. And that needs to be updated and kept update and be reliable. And it makes a validator contactable in the event of failure or something else, And so they're important things to have. I'm going to be building out a web page that specifically is dedicated to non-UNL validators voting positions on both fees and amendment voting. So in other words, you'll be able to look at my web page and it will tell you what the current intent of the entire network is relative to what fees should be and what amendments should be enabled or not. And that'll give a better indication of that. Whether it'll have every validator, probably. I'll probably identify every validator as well. But as I said, unless we know the validator and the person, most of them are just identified purely by their public address, which is an NH identity.
Yeah, so agreed, they don't have to, and that is great. But I was just saying maybe there needs to be some type of central site created so that if they do have aspirations of being trusted by other people, right? Then if they want to make that step forward, make their equipment known, make their votes known and that kind of thing, right? And it'll make it a little easier for other validators to decide whether they want to trust them or not, as well as the public can kind of see like what a lot of these different validators are thinking and what their equipment looks like, and to see if there's any vast differentiation between maybe a group or if there's broad consensus among all of them. I just think the transparency of having that information is valuable. So I'm glad you're working on it, and I hope others are kind of contribute as well.
Yeah, I think what's important now is that the whole concept of the XRP ledger is changing from that as being
Did he cut out, or is that just me?
No, I cut
Yeah,
out.
you cut out.
You there, Rippleton? Oh, sure.
Good old Twitter.
By the way, if anybody in the audience wants to come up, if they have any questions about anything that's been talked about,
please feel free to hit the request and come up and speak with us. Or if you would like, you could also, at the bottom right, I guess there's a little bubble there. It looks like we have a couple messages where you can go and type a question if you don't want to come up and speak.
Hey, sorry about that. I just arrived home and it flicked from my phone through to the wireless network and cut me off. But yeah, so look, I don't want to take the floor too much longer, but I agree with you, Kasha. It's really important that people do portray who they are, have some transparency, I suppose, as to who they are, what they're running as validators, and to a certain degree why they're running a validator. And it gives us all something to trust and learn to trust. As we've moved away from Ripple being the custodians of the XRP ledger, it's now been custodianed by the XRP Ledger Foundation. And we just need to make changes right across the board, so we can get a more diverse range of people up in the UNL, and alternatives. We could grow the list, we could shrink the list. It really depends on the people within, and what UNLs are using on their validators. But there you go.
Oh, thank you very much for the information. And like I said, if anybody in the audience has any questions about anything that's been talked about, please feel free to ask away.
Yeah, I think we're probably only going to do another 30 minutes. So, but yeah, the whole purpose is speak up and either tell us something or ask something, or if there's something you're, I don't know, curious about.
Maybe I want to add that there is, to what Rippleton was saying, or to the topic from yesterday, the XRPL Foundation YouTube channel released the recordings of the second community call with Rippleton, Nick Bogalis, and Daniel. So, and it was also about validators, UNL. So whoever did not listen to that or was not able to make it last time can, have a look into it and hear it.
Do you have a link for that you could post?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good chat.
Yeah, just to reiterate, I DM'd you, Death Ranger. I'm not very great on creating like a visual video to show how to check on the Flare Explorer. I mean, to some people on here, it's probably very simple, but to some people, like I found out today, I didn't have a clue.
Well,
all I seen was it was gone from the XRP scan Flare subheading. So yeah, if anyone can like demonstrate that for people like myself, that would be great.
I think FC already has a probably actually. I think I'm almost 100% sure he has a video to show you how to look that up already. But it may not be accurate, right? Because if this amendment, the vote goes through, right, it's not going to be necessarily accurate for whatever you're looking about out as an amount, and so, that could also be another reason why it's not available at the moment. Or showing
No, but the contract is for the whole amount that's being airdropped. So it's the whole it's figure like 390 million, billion, million, whatever. So that is for the whole everyone's airdrop, and it's when you put your address in, when you click on instead of contracts, you go to read only, and then you put your ETH address in, and then when you query it, because that's the whole contract, and at the minute it's generating 15%. So when they update the coding, that would probably update to if there's been an amendment, obviously. But so far, as of today, it is showing the 15%.
Cool, and that was Flare Scan, you said, right?
Flare Explorer. So it's the generic contract for the initial airdrop, which covers all the amount of all the addresses, and that has been whacked on now live to the Flare networks, the Flare Explorer. So I think you have some of the illustration screenshots that I sent you. So I mean, I can try and do it, but I don't know how many people on here would need to check that.
Yeah, so if you wanted to check how much you were receiving from the drop, you could go to either Flare Scan or XRP Scan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Today, my XRP scan, it says not eligible, but only now on the Flare networks, it shows me that it is eligible. So some might go on XRP scan as of today, like I did, and it says not eligible. And obviously then, people will start to think after over a year, they're not getting it.
I mean, Flare Scan should still show the memo field, right?
Yeah, if XRP Scan sometimes has that little glitch on it, you could just go to Flare Scan, yeah. I mean, sorry, not XRP, yeah, XRP Scan, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is confusing. I'm not gonna lie. It took me a while because I mean I've never taken any technology or classes or anything, or yeah, and so anything I've done with technology has just been me screwing around, kind of self-learning. But it like to when they got rid of Ripple Trade, well, Ripple Trade was actually pretty good. You could do a lot of stuff. You couldn't use all the features, but you could do most of them. And then when they got rid of that, and you basically had to go to self custody, and then it was, oh man, it took me a long time to be able to do stuff again on Ledger.
So I had a message, Rippleton, if you're there, somebody sent me a message. I'm sorry, I just saw it. They wanted me to ask you, in your opinion, if having more validators on your list will impact your validator's performance.
No. So your validators list has absolutely zero effect on your performance. Yeah. So it's just how you reach consensus. Yeah. So it's got nothing to do with performance at all.
Thank you. I'm sure that answered his question.
So, like, yeah, to
Yeah.
give you an idea, I have, and a large majority of people do. I carry two UNL lists on my validator. I use both coils, both the XRP Ledger Foundations and Ripples. Ironically, they're both the same list, but what it does mean is that because my validator, it looks up a list online. If one of those goes down, it gives me the ability to have some redundancy in that it can then get another list that's identical from somewhere else to revert to. So, yeah, that's just redundancy thing, but it has absolutely zero effect on your performance. Now, if I chose to, I could add other validators to those lists myself, or I could remove the list completely and put my own validators in there. But I can't specifically remove validators that are on that list because I'm using that list and it's by somebody else. So they would have to remove them.
I pinned also the community call because someone was asking for a link.
Yeah, I didn't get to comment earlier when y'all were talking about the new ODL Brazil corridor, but that was a big, exciting news. I did look up some stuff, and that Travelex company is actually involved in SME payments, treasuries. They do a lot of note movement for central banks. So I think it was a very big partner to take on. So it'll probably be more than just remittances going, as they maturate and build out. But I think it was a very good partnership to land. So we should all be kind of happy that Brazil got added to the ODL users. So that was great. And I'll be watching the volumes too. So if any of y'all follow me on Twitter, I kind of often post volumes by currency. And I know kind of what the Brazilian average has been historically. So if I start to see some movement or we start to see some movement, it'll be interesting to see how that corridor builds out.
Yes, I'm excited to see. It's good, good for them. It's the company they partnered with. You're right, is one of like the largest financial institutions in Brazil, in the Brazilian area, and that's a huge remittance corridor by itself, regardless of whatever else they do.
Well, it is a lot more international payments than just remittance from Brazil. I mean, Brazil's huge, dude. It's like almost half the continent, or at least maybe a third.
Yeah, and that's what made the news kind of big because they specifically mentioned like small to medium bulk batch treasury payments. They mentioned more than just remittances, so I thought that was really exciting if we could see some of those other aspects of moving money beyond just the remittances get built out using these partners. It'll be great. They do have some connections, I think, to Hong Kong, Australia. I can't remember the other one off the top of my head. So that may be some corridors going forward. I think even in some of the Dubai regions in the ASEAN, they had some connections, right? So I think they were just starting off with one particular corridor, but we can probably look over time that they're definitely going to be expanding into some others. So that's what I'll be watching.
And if anybody likes just checking out the Fed board's reserves balance sheet, you can always I posted it up top just in case anybody likes looking at that kind of financial information from the Federal Reserve. They just posted it a couple minutes ago. Space I was in earlier too. I was actually listening to a space on Filecoin. I'm just getting more and more interested in Filecoin and the capabilities that's going to be on the blockchain with or utilizing the blockchain with IPFS. I think it's pretty cool.
Well, Filecoin's been around almost as long as XRP Ledger. And I think it's a legitimate use case for the blockchain technology. It's one of the few I would say that about.
Yeah, and I guess if anybody after the space, looks like Matt posted it was about an hour ago. That video probably happened, but it looks like somebody did a video clip on some Filecoin information. If anybody wants to check it out after the video, after the space, I posted the video up top.
And anyone who is interested in XS20 and NFTs, I also highly encourage to listen to this because you will also use IPFS most likely, and so it's good to know the in and outs of this and how that works.
Yeah, on that NFT note, I just wanted to kind of quickly say, we all want to see the XRP ledger be used for different things and some of this stuff to succeed, but we definitely need to be cautious of what we're putting our money into, because at the end of the day, you want to look for some of these responsible people who are, waiting for XLS20 before they start pre-selling tokens and some of the risky behavior that we know um, could possibly get you deemed a security or other risk factors, right? So I'm excited to see some of the NFT projects, but I do want to see more of them take their time, be responsible, and don't take unnecessary risks, thinking just because they're not registered in the United States or some of these other potential so-called workarounds, right, that they're not still at risk if they're offering these NFTs to American investors. So if any of you are, into the NFT thing, I just wanted to encourage you to look at the ones that are behaving responsibly, and if you want to, mess with them, you do. But I would just, look for red flags for any behavior that, would be red flaggish. So yeah, just wanted to say that as well, because there's still a lot of security risk in pre-selling tokens and trying to raise money when you don't even have a product or a site or anything up yet is definitely a red flag.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing I think is going to happen is there will be a lot of individuals and projects and people who have to deal with regulatory bodies in the future because they're not going to go for you when you only have a couple hundred couple or couple thousand tens of thousands of dollars. They'll wait till you have a couple $1,000,000, right? Because it's not worth it for them to come after small fish. And it stinks, but it's a difficult world because people want to make something but don't have the financial means to do it. And yeah, it's unfortunate. I think though it's going to happen.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, right? It comes down to the fundraising, which is why this whole security dynamics is such a big deal in this crypto space, right? So if they're needing the money to then build out and offer the things that they're trying to do, that's my whole point. It's like I know how hard it can be. I've had to raise money for my own companies, but I do want to encourage anyone that has those ideas of working with these projects to just take your time and do it the proper way. Like if you're trying to raise the money ahead of time, offer the public to then build something out, that's a big red flag. So I just want the community to be aware of that. It is unfortunate, but it's the world that we live in. So, you know, you heard it here. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, we're coming up right on that. About 15 more minutes, and if anybody in the audience, and I'm saying it again, if you guys want to come up though, please feel free. Any topics, any ideas that you'd like to speak about as well, please feel free to bring up some new topics. And if I could just ask if everyone could follow us at ledgerscale on Twitter and hit that little bubble at the bottom right and give us a like and a retweet. Twitter makes it very
just so we're clear, like none of this is financial advice, and the speakers don't represent ledgerscale. But yeah, if you do want to support our efforts, we appreciate you joining. And there's links for various crypto networks at the top of the ledgerscale account. And yeah.
Oh, and thank everybody. Thank you everybody who follows us at ledgerscale, because it looks like we broke 500 followers today.
Oh, we did? Cool.
Yep, it's a cool achievement. Thank you guys.
Dude, we got to get to 1,000 because for whatever Twitter reasons, I don't know. I hate Twitter, but still, that's cool. But yeah, let's get a few more minutes. The SEC certainly does have jurisdiction over capital formation, though. To go back to what we were just talking about. So, I mean, I'm being dead honest. This is part of the reason I didn't participate in the Ethereum ICO or whatever they called it back then. They didn't call it an ICO. It just didn't seem quite right. So I mean,
But
capital formation is part of the SEC's jurisdiction. I mean, that's within their purview or bailiwick or whatever you want to call it. I think it's different if you have a network already operating, right, and you're selling access to it. That's different, which is basically what XRP is. I mean, ETH is, well, I guess they call it a gas fee, but it's basically access to the network. I don't know. It's just if the network's already up and running, I would think you would have a weaker position to argue around.
No, you're 100% right, Karma. That's what I'm saying. In context of these NFTs, though, which I was specifically talking about, your XLS 20 is not even out for them to, issue the NFTs to the people who are buying the token before there's an NFT even available, right? So that's that red danger zone that I'm describing, right? That if you're buying this pre-token, you can't even get the NFT, or you can't even get to their marketplace to use the token, or you can't stake it yet. Like all of these different things that they may be promising you. If you can't use any of that yet, but they're selling you the token ahead of time, that's a big red flag. You're right. SEC has jurisdiction over that capital formation stuff. So I just don't want to hear a lot of people get wrecked and then, pretend like we didn't know that this risk factor exists. So I'm making it public, and I hope we share it and just don't let our community be the one. Because if we're paying attention, there's a lot of buzz around NFTs and XRP ledger right now, right? So there's a lot of conversation, a lot of activity going on in that space. And so I'm sure there's a lot of people who may get caught up in this, and I just don't want it to happen. But you're free to do whatever you want. Like I said, it's not financial advice from me. It's just, you know, my personal opinion.
Yeah, the IUU scheme definitely brought a lot of issues. Yeah.
well, the issue isn't today. The issue is 2-3 years from now. And that's what I think he means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just kind of, don't you think the reputation as community is more important than anything?
Can you elaborate on that?
No, I'm just saying, and how, this gentleman's saying a lot of people can get caught up and burnt in the red zone and everything else. So I would hate to see people get burned and people run away from this community, because it's a good community.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. Over the course of the last 6 years, I've seen hundreds of friends, I could say, that are actually people that I've spoke to on a daily basis come and go. And so it takes a toll.
You can only really
Not just
do education stuff, like educate people, tell them what's going on, but you cannot really ban them. You cannot block them from issuing that stuff, so to speak.
Yeah, and I'm hoping if we have more responsible behavior as a community, right? My hope is that we can stop making ourselves a target for the opportunists who see that we're eager to, jump on these things and support the ledger, right? And then we end up, kind of falling right into their trap. So I'm trying to get us to show that, hey, look, we understand this stuff, as a community, and we understand what some of the risk factors are, and we're going to be a responsible community. So if you're looking to just exploit people, it's probably not the community that you need to be coming to. And that's really what I'm trying to get it around to and establish at the end of the day, is just let everyone know we're a responsible community. If you're looking to, juice somebody out their money, you probably need to go to another community. And that, if we can reaffirm that over time, I think that's the best thing that we can do.
Well, I'm also against being a police, so to speak, on Twitter in that sense, but because I got myself into that sort of field, and I think it's not really it's not beneficial. And you go nowhere. Basically, you just you talk against a wall, I feel like. And I've also to outline that brought, for me personally, got to know so many amazing people. Without that whole stuff, I wouldn't probably get to all these people. So what do people say? Everything that bad, it also has some good sides to it. But yeah, I don't know. I say it's very often, but it reminds me of 2017 Ethereum, with the ICO booms, and projects were created like left and right and everything. I feel like this is somewhat the same, because if you look at the unique Zum wallet users, they exploded last year. Okay, like from August, July, it was amazing. Like Wietse was also he was posting very often back then about that. Like weekly, he was posting again, beat 2 million new people, whatever, I don't know, but a lot of new people. And I think it's very healthy to move on, because now people are finally, I would say, see the benefits of the XRPL, the DEX, and all that stuff that maybe Ripple was not advertising much enough, in my opinion.
In a
for
way,
other people.
The FinCEN lawsuit, it shut down Ripple Trade, right? So that shut down your sort of consumer UI, UX, whatever, which just shut people off of the network, right? So when some got spun up, it was kind of the first. I mean, there was some other options, but they weren't super great. But that some was basically a reintroduction to like, oh, there's a consumer interface to this network, and then people can start using it because there's an easy interface.
Yeah, Vet. Now, I hope nothing that I said came off as if I'm trying to police the community, because that's certainly not what I was trying to imply. It's just more education, right? Because if people don't know what the risk factors are, then they can't make decisions based on information they don't know. And so I was really coming from a place of educating the community about the risk factors more than trying to police a community.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I like to play devil's advocate and know both sides of the coin before I get into anything.
Yeah, it's always a good reminder to prepare yourself for failure, as well as preparing like a lot of the time for success, because you know we all hit hurdles, we all don't know what's going to happen. So if you prepare kind of in your mind for both scenarios, it's not often a shock to you if that actually event happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's not unique, obviously, to the XRPL, right? I mean, it's mainly greed. And back then, like when that started in I recall September, October, something like this, August, Wietse was posting a video saying, hey, don't, like exchange your valuable XRP for those trash tokens, basically, with no value. You get just drained and everything. And people went ahead and did it regardless, because of greed, because you see like these numbers, you see like, oh, people are making money, you go ahead, you do it, you get burned, right? But many people were calling the scheme in the beginning out, right? They were like, really surprised about how can this work, like why would someone exchange their valuable XRP for nothing? Right?
I could not understand it.
Yeah, I mean, but this is the thing. Like, it's greed. It's mainly greed. I mean, there were people posting legit their XRP address with a tag, so it means it's an exchange wallet, right? So they were posting their exchange wallet and saying send XRP and you get like NFTs or whatever. And people were sending actually XRP to this thing. It was just a personal account, and people did it regardless, right? So who to blame, right? You can obviously say, yeah, we should educate people and do this, but at some point people just turn off, they just see, but maybe it's true, and then I get an NFT and I can flip it.
How do you know
This
it's not just somebody? Oh, there's a term for this. It's where
the big picture.
trading is the term. How do you know that's not basically the same person? Trade, like when I did the Karma dollars, I traded it back and forth between 4 or 5 different accounts, right? But they were all my accounts. I just wanted to see if the software would work. Like I was skeptical, and but like, how do you know that's not just somebody trading amongst themselves to prop up and make it look like there's a market there?
Yeah, Beth, I 100% agree with you. Like at the end of the day, greed is behind a lot of this, right? And so people are going to do whatever they're going to do, regardless of if they're putting the educational material out there or not. But there's always that one, and maybe even more than one, 10, 100, right, that honestly need the information, right? So I just think that the people who do have the information, if you're that type of person who cares about the other people, then there's just nothing wrong with continuing to try to educate those who need the education. So I 100% agree with you that greed is behind it. That's what's brought the opportunists out to try to get people out of their XRP, is because they've identified the greed, right? But at the end of the day, right, there's still just that one person out there, maybe more than one, as I said, that honestly needs the information to make better decisions. So I'm always thinking about those people.
Yeah, Cash, and I like to call it it's a big picture problem, right? Because the average consumer, when they come to the digital asset space, the mentality is I'm trying to get rich quick. And so that's what really leads to all of that, just like moving as fast as possible down these bad pathways where they get scammed, is because it's just the big picture's thrown off because people really are like sold an illusion, I think, for the most part. But I think we're going to end it here. Jay, you just came up. Thank you for joining us. Spend the bits if you want to say anything, and then I think we'll close up the space.
Can I just thank Mr. Ripple It In? I think what you do is brilliant, dude, in the detail that you do it. And yeah, Kasha, everyone, in case I don't say it, I appreciate all you guys. I've left some messages on this thread, so be free to check them out if you want to. Thank you.
And thank you for the shout out, Death Ranger. And hey, Ron. Hey, everyone.
So are you definitely going to New Orleans?
I'm looking forward to it. I haven't submitted the application, but I was filling the application today. 100% looking forward to it. We are working on the Rafiki protocol, basically on the connector side of it, because the current Rafiki solution doesn't have a plugin. ILP plugin for XRPL. If we are able to complete that, I think we will most likely contribute the code for the overall XRPL devs. So then anybody from the XRPL dev ecosystem wants to connect with the Rafiki ILP, they will be able to do it.
Ooh,
but I'm looking forward to it.
What a nice way to end the fire news right there. Thank you very much.
I think I'm gonna probably go. So that'll be great to meet up.
We have to wear some ledgerscale merch.
What was that, Bet?
Oh, sorry. I think Spend the Bits was talking. Sorry, I didn't want. I think I cut him off. Sorry. Okay.
Well, I think we're going to close it up here, though, right past that 5 o'clock mark. I thank everybody who listens to this today and in the future. I hope you guys find this conversation and information valuable. And I really do thank all the speakers who came up today because, I come to these, right? I started joining these not only because I want to provide information for everybody, but I like to take information from everyone I speak to. And it's always great when we really have a great crowd up here. So I thank you guys a lot. And look forward to hopefully seeing everyone. Actually, I will not be in the space myself tomorrow, but Carmen will be here 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And I will see everybody over the weekend and probably next week.
Yeah, appreciate all you guys joining. And we'll see you tomorrow, man.